The desert winds of Kator 7 howled across endless dunes of crimson sand, carrying with them the whispers of a dying world. Beneath the twin suns that scorched the barren landscape, a figure lay crumpled against a jagged rock formation, her silver skin cracked and bleeding violet ichor. Empress Vexara of the Caltheon Empire had conquered 14 star systems. She had ordered the glassing of rebellious planets and the enslavement of countless species. Her name was spoken in trembling whispers across the galaxy. But now, betrayed by her own council and abandoned on this forsaken rock, she was nothing more than a dying alien gasping for air that burned her lungs. She did not hear the hovercraft approaching until it was nearly upon her. Walter Chen adjusted his dusty goggles and brought the old salvage hauler to a halt. The metal beast groaned in protest, its anti-grav generators whining as sand particles scraped against the hull. Beside him, his daughter Sophia leaned forward, her dark eyes fixed on something in the distance. "Dad, there's someone out there," she said, her voice tight with concern. Walter squinted through the heat shimmer. His weathered face, creased from years of sun and struggle, showed no surprise. On Kator 7, you found strange things half buried in the sand, ancient tech, crashed ships, occasionally bodies. He'd learned not to ask too many questions. "Probably dead," he muttered, but he was already steering the hauler toward the figure. Sophia was 12 years old and had her mother's stubborn compassion. She jumped from the hauler before it fully stopped, her boots hitting the sand with a soft thud. Walter cursed under his breath and grabbed the med kit, following her. Up close, the alien was unmistakably female, though her physiology was unlike anything in Walter's limited xenobiology knowledge. Silver skin, 4 arms now curled protectively against her torso, and a crown of crystalline horns that caught the sunlight like shattered diamonds. Her breathing was shallow, and her triple-lidded eyes flickered with fading consciousness. "She's hurt bad," Sophia said, already uncapping a water canister. "Soph, we don't know what she is." "She's dying, Dad." Sophia's voice carried the absolute certainty of youth. She pressed the canister to the alien's cracked lips. Vexara's eyes snapped open. Even in her weakened state, the Empress's gaze held the weight of absolute authority. She saw a human child, a species she'd barely considered worthy of notice, offering her water. The gesture was so unexpected, so alien to everything she understood about survival and power, that she simply stared. "Drink," Sophia insisted gently. Walter watched his daughter work with a mixture of pride and anxiety. The alien drank greedily, violet-tinged saliva mixing with the precious water. He'd taught Sophia to survive on this harsh world, but he'd also taught her something more dangerous: humanity. They loaded Vexara onto the hauler. She was surprisingly light despite her muscular frame, as if her bones were hollow like a bird's. During the ride back to their settlement, she drifted in and out of consciousness, fragments of her native language mixing with standard galactic. Their home was a converted mining station, half buried in a canyon wall to escape the worst of the heat. Walter had scavenged and rebuilt it over 5 years, ever since he and Sophia had crashed here while fleeing corporate debt collectors. It wasn't much, but it was theirs. For 3 days, Vexara burned with fever. Sophia stayed by her side, applying cooling cloths and offering sips of their rationed water. Walter worked on repairs and watched the scanners nervously. Harboring an unknown alien could attract unwanted attention. On the 4th day, Vexara's eyes opened with clarity. She studied her surroundings with the tactical mind of a military commander. A modest dwelling, limited resources, 2 humans who had every reason to leave her in the desert but hadn't. The child especially confused her. Sophia sat nearby, reading from a battered datapad, occasionally glancing over to check on her patient. "Why did you help me?" Vexara's voice was rough. her standard galactic heavily accented but understandable. Sophia looked up, her face breaking into a relieved smile. "You're awake. You've been really sick. How do you feel?" "Answer my question." Walter entered, carrying a tray of reconstituted protein paste and synthetic fruit. He set it down and fixed the Empress with a steady look. "On this planet, we help each other. That's how you survive." Vexara's 4 hands clenched. "You don't understand what I am." "Does it matter?" Sophia asked simply. The Empress was silent. In her empire, kindness was weakness. Mercy was a strategic tool, not a virtue. Yet these humans, living in poverty on a dead world, had spent their resources on a stranger. She should have found it contemptible. Instead, it unsettled something deep within her consciousness. Over the following weeks, Vexara regained her strength. She learned that Walter had been an engineer on a colony ship, that Sophia's mother had died during their crash landing, that they survived by salvaging tech from the planet's abandoned mining operations and trading with occasional smuggler crews. She also learned about human resilience, how they laughed despite hardship, how Walter taught Sophia mathematics and literature on scratched datapads, how they rationed their food carefully but never complained, how they had built a life from nothing on a world that wanted them dead. One evening, as the twin suns set in a spectacular display of orange and purple, Sophia asked, "What were you doing out in the desert?" Vexara was quiet for a long moment. "I was betrayed. Left to die by those I ruled." "That's horrible," Sophia said with genuine sympathy. "I was not kind to those I ruled," Vexara admitted, the words bitter on her tongue. "I have done terrible things." "Everyone can change," Sophia said with the profound simplicity of youth. "Dad says it's never too late to be better." Walter nodded slowly. "We all carry our past. The question is what we do with our future." Vexara felt something crack inside her, more profound than any physical wound. These humans, with nothing, were richer than she had ever been with 14 star systems at her command. They had shown her a kind of strength her empire could never understand, the strength to be gentle, to be kind, to help without calculation of gain. When the rescue ship finally came, a small cruiser bearing her personal seal, loyal officers who had been searching, Vexara stood before Walter and Sophia. "Come with me," she said. "I will give you a world, resources, anything you desire." Walter shook his head. "This is our home." "Then I will send supplies, protection. This world will never be forgotten." Sophia hugged the Empress, her small arms barely reaching around the alien's waist. "Just be good to people," she whispered. "That's all we want." As Vexara's ship lifted away from Kator 7, she looked down at the tiny settlement growing smaller beneath her. She had been saved by the very species she'd dismissed as insignificant. She had been shown mercy by those who had every reason to deny it. The Caltheon Empire would change, not through conquest, but through a lesson learned in a desert from a man and his daughter who proved that true strength lies not in ruthlessness, but in humanity. And across the stars, the legend would grow of the ruthless Empress who found redemption not in power, but in the simple kindness of 2 humans on a forgotten world. The end.